So I think we're going to wait just another minute or two to see if other people trickle in. But I am going to ask you to begin seated. And I'm just going to make an announcement that I'll probably announce again if anybody else joins us in a minute or two, that unfortunately I do have to scoot out a few minutes early. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I don't know if any of you have ever gone to a Bikram yoga class, but in the Bikram yoga class, they end in Shavasana and then the teacher leaves the room. And you choose to stay in Shavasana for as long as you'd like. So I'm going to adopt that practice for myself today. So I'm going to end with all of you guys in Shavasana, and then I'm just going to quietly leave, and you can decide to stay for as long as you would like to. You'll eventually be hungry for dinner if you fall asleep, but that is my strategy. So in a comfortable seated position, whatever comfortable seated position means for you, right? Just because I have my legs crossed does not mean that you need to have yours crossed. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, try to lift up just a little bit taller in your seat. Take a nice breath in, bring your shoulders up toward your ears, hold them there for a moment. And then exhale, release your shoulders down. We're going to work a little bit today on the concept of transitions. So the first day of spring was just a couple of days ago, and spring is kind of a transitional month, right? We're transitioning from winter to summer. Spring is a time of rebirth. Spring is a time of renewal. Spring is a time of transition. So throughout our yoga practice this afternoon, I'm going to be reminding you to notice the transition from one pose to the next. We don't get from point A to point B magically. Something happens along the way. And getting from point A to point B, what happens along the way, it's called life, right? You don't get from the first day of your semester to the last day of the semester magically. Something happens in between, you're living. So I want you to start to pay really close attention to the transitions in your practice this afternoon. Keeping your hands on your knees, keeping your eyes closed if that feels comfortable. From your lower belly, start to make some big circles all the way around with your body. So we're going all the way around, imagining that the motion is being generated by the area around our lower abdomen. Nice big circles, loosening up your hips, bringing movement to your spine. And just to let you know, we're going to reverse this in a moment, but I want you to notice the transition. So now begin to go in the opposite direction, imagining that the movement is coming from your rib cage. So you're going all the way around and around and around. And now one more time, reverse the direction and imagine that the movement is being generated from your shoulders, circling yourself around and around and around. Come to a still point, lift yourself up a little bit taller, bring your hands to your heart center, let your chin drop down toward your chest, stretching the back of your neck. Big breath in, and as you exhale, follow your hands with your gaze, raise your arms up over your head, reaching as high as you can. Release that right hand down, left arm comes up and over. So stay here for a moment, and you probably realize this, but in a moment you're going to be sitting up again. But how do you get from here to there? Does it happen magically? What do? Do you push into that right hand a little bit? Do you pull in on the muscles of your belly? Do you use your exhale? What happens? So nice little sip of breath. Exhale, lift yourself up. And now that left hand comes down, that right arm comes up and over. You stretch and stretch and stretch. And same thing, notice the transition. Big breath in, exhale, lift up. Palms forward, start to fold forward, forward, forward. Release your shoulders, release your chest, release your head. Take a couple of nice breaths here, allowing each exhale to let go of any lingering tension you may be holding on to in your shoulders or your neck. Creep your fingers out a little bit further. Take a nice big breath in. As you exhale, lift yourself up onto your hands and knees. So we're on our hands and knees. I'm telling you, usually I don't tell you what's coming next, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to be in down dog in a moment. But I want you to notice, how do you get from all fours to down dog? What is the transitional process? Let's notice, you tuck your toes under. You take a big breath in, engage your belly. And then as you exhale, you start to lift your hips. You start to straighten your legs. Look what happens. Your chest drops down, your head releases, your heels relax and get heavy. Right? So we didn't get here by magic. There was a transitional process that we paid attention to. So from our down dog, we're going to transition to plank pose. How do we get there? You take a nice breath in, you come up onto your tippy toes. Notice yourself shifting your weight forward. At what point do you start to feel your shoulders involved? When do your chest muscles kick in? When do your wrists start saying, hey, I feel something, something. Take a nice big breath in. And as you exhale, come down onto your knees, flatten your feet, sink your hips to your heels. You're coming to your child's pose. In your child's pose, you're pushing that mat away. This is an active child's pose. We're pushing the mat away. We're trying to get our butt as close to our heels as possible. So we're going to go through that whole little very short vinyasa again, noticing each transition. Nice breath in. Exhale all fours. Curl your toes, lift your hips, drop your head and chest, your heels get heavy. You're in your down dog. Come up onto your tippy toes, rock yourself forward to plank. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Bend your knees, flatten your feet, hips come back. You're in child's pose. So can we speed this up a little bit, still noticing each transition? Inhale all fours, curl your toes, exhale down dog. Inhale tippy toes, exhale plank. Nice breath in, exhale knees to the mat, sink your hips to your heels, child's pose. We're going to add on a little bit. Come up onto all fours, curl your toes, hips rise, down dog. Inhale tippy toes, exhale plank. We're going to come to chaturanga. So bend those elbows. You're hovering here, right? So you're in chaturanga. In a moment, you're going to be in plank again. What has to work to make that happen? Big breath in, exhale, straighten your arms, come to plank. A lot of tricep work, right? Involved in that transition. And then come down onto your knees, sink your hips to your heels. Again, same little vinyasa, a little bit faster, but continuing to notice transition. Inhale all fours, curl your toes, exhale down dog. Inhale tippy toes, exhale plank. Big sip of breath, exhale chaturanga. Hover, hover, hover. Straighten your arms plank, knees to the mat, hips to your heels, creep your fingers out. One more time. Inhale all fours, curl your toes, exhale down dog. Inhale tippy toes, exhale plank pose. Big sip of breath, exhale chaturanga. Another big breath in, exhale plank, knees to the mat, hips to your heels, child's pose. This time in your child's pose, walk both of your hands to the right side of your mat, put your left hand on top of your right hand, and creep your left fingers a little bit further down, stretching that left side of your body. And then you walk your hands all the way over to the left side of your mat. Right hand comes on top of that left hand. Creep your fingers a little further forward. Hands come back to center. Lift yourself to all fours. Curl your toes. Here we go once again. How do you get to down dog? Notice what happens along the way. Pay attention to the transition. Head's heavy, heels are relaxed. Right leg's going to come up nice and high in the air. Look forward. Step your right foot forward. Stay on the toes of that back left foot. Bring your hands onto your right thigh. Roll your shoulders back, stay here, and then bring your hands to your heart center. We're going to tap that left knee down to the mat in a moment. But again, we're paying attention to how you get there. So what's got to work really hard to make that happen? You start to bend that left knee. I'm really using this right quad. I'm using that right heel. Lift yourself back up. Tap and lift. Again, tap and lift. Come all the way down, stay here, flatten that left foot. Take your left elbow, bring it to the outside of your right thigh. Turn your belly, your ribs, your chest. Look over your right shoulder. So a moment ago, you were not twisted. Now you are. How did that happen? Are you paying attention to the transition from one pose to the next? Come back to center. Start to drop yourself down. Sweep your arms up. And then look up. Take a nice breath in. As you exhale, release your hands to the mat. Slide your right foot back. Curl your toes. Once again, lift those hips. Drop your head. Push that floor away. You're back in down dog. Lift your left leg nice and high. Look to your hands. How does that left foot get forward? Step it forward. And then lift yourself to a lunge. How does that happen? You press into that left foot. You can let your hands rest on that left thigh if you would like to. You lift up that left chest. You stretch that right hip flexor. Hands to your heart center. Tap and lift. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, hold it. Exhale. Drop that right knee, flatten that right foot. Notice the transition to come into a twist. Right elbow, you turn your belly, you turn your ribs, that elbow comes to the outside of that left thigh, you turn your chest, you look over that left shoulder. Come back to center. Raise your arms up as you drop yourself down. Look up, stretch up, breathe up. And then release your hands to the mat. Slide that left foot back. And you're going to stay on your hands and knees. You're going to cross your ankles. We're going to do a couple of chaturanga push-ups. Why? Because I want you to notice what happens in your body. Nice breath in. As you exhale, you're coming forward, forward, forward. Then you drop yourself down, those elbows bend, and we're going to hover here. And then lift yourself up, bring your hips to your heels. In a moment, we're going to be back in that chaturanga push-up. What happens to your body on the way there? What happens to your body in that pose? If you were lit up with some infrared lighting that showed all the muscle groups working, what would be shining the brightest? Inhale, lift up. Cross your ankles. As you exhale, you're coming forward, right? My boobs are coming to my thumbs. I'm not coming down. I'm coming forward. And we're going to stay here for a good 4 or 5 breaths. And then lift yourself up, hips to your heels. Creep your fingers out a little bit further. Lift yourself back to all fours. Right foot comes out behind you, toes on the floor. Press your heel back, stretch that right calf. Lift your right leg up. What happens when you lift that leg up? Your glute engages. Extend your right arm, start to roll your right shoulder back. What happens when you roll your shoulder back? Look what happens. Your ribs come with it. Your hip comes with it. Your whole body turns. Just by starting to turn that shoulder, it starts that kinetic chain and everything turns. You look up to your right hand. And then we look down to your left hand. Loosening up your neck a little, shifting your gaze, challenging your balance. Inhale, look up to that right hand. Exhale, look down to that left hand. And then look straight ahead. Start to move that right leg forward. Hold it there. And then slowly move it back. Again, slowly move that leg forward. Leave it there. Slowly move it back. Bend your knee. Try to find that right ankle. Bring your heel toward your butt. If you feel steady, you can begin to turn your head and look over that right shoulder. In a moment, we're going to be back on our hands and knees. How do you get there? You let go of that foot. You release your hand down. My shoulder starts to turn, my ribs turn, my hip turns, my knee comes back down. You're going to shift your hips back to your heels for a moment, kind of reset yourself. Always a little more challenging to shift your weight to the second side. Nice breath in. Exhale, lift yourself back to all fours. Your left foot comes out behind you. Press that heel back. We're transitioning to lifting that leg up. What happens along the way? Oh, look, my glute kicks in. My leg feels a little heavy. And then my left arm extends. I start to roll my left shoulder back. My ribs come with it. My hip comes with it. Everything turns. Inhale, look up to that left hand. Exhale, look down to your right hand. Inhale, look up. Exhale, look down. And then look straight ahead. Slowly start to move that left leg forward. You're loosening up that hip joint. Notice it. And then slowly move that left leg back. Slowly move your left leg forward. Slowly move it back. Bend your left knee. Reach behind you. Find that left foot. And then turn your head. Look over that left shoulder, opening your chest. A couple of nice big breaths here. With control, release your hand. Notice your shoulder turns, your ribs turn, your hips turn, and you come back to your child's pose. We're noticing what happens along the way. Sweep your hands behind you. Let your hands rest on your low back. So we're talking about spring being a transitional time, transitioning from one season to the next. From the cold to the warm. Spring's a time of rebirth. It's a time of growth. So maybe you imagine that you're a flower budding up out of the earth. Take a nice breath in, come up onto your knees, raise your right arm up into the air, look up. And then as you exhale, roll your thumb down, sweep that right hand behind you, tuck your chin, tuck your belly, come back down. Inhale, left arm lifts, look up, stretch up, breathe up. And exhale, roll your thumb down, hand comes back to your low back. Again, inhale, right arm lifts. Roll your thumb down, exhale, release. Inhale, left arm lifts. Exhale, release. Inhale, both arms lift. And as you exhale, stay here. Relax your shoulders. And then turn your palms down, slowly bring your arms straight out in front of you. So we're going to use a little bit of our quads, a little bit of our core. Arms come straight out. We're going to try to keep our back straight. Nice breath in. And as you exhale, Lower yourself back. So you're leaning back, leaning back, leaning back. Again, think of that infrared light. Would it be shining brightly on your quads? Do you notice your core? Do you notice your back? What's working here? Big breath in. Exhale, come back up. Bring your arms over your head. Sweep your hands behind you. Rest your hands on your low back. Shift your hips forward. Bring your shoulder blades together. Look up. Ustrasana, camel pose. This is a modification of camel pose. This is a nice big back bend. This is as deep as we're going today. Take a big breath in. And as you exhale, tuck your chin, pull your belly in, hips to your heels, relax your shoulders, feel your upper back stretch as those shoulders melt onto the floor. So we're going to travel through those two moves again. When we do something the second time, I want you to notice, how do you get from point A to point B? Right? Life is all about transitioning from one phase to the next. Managing transitions builds resilience. Managing transitions, being present in transitions, means you're paying attention to your life. So, slide your hands out in front of you. Nice big breath in. Exhale, stand up on your knees. Arms come straight out. Big breath in. Exhale, lean back. We're going to stay here for 4 breaths. And then come back up. Sweep your right hand behind you. Sweep your left hand behind you. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Elbows start to come together. Shift those hips forward. Lift your chest. Lift your chin. Lift your gaze. If this bothers your neck, you don't do it or you look straight ahead. If you're okay, you drop your head back. Slowly transition. Shift your hips back. Pull your belly in. Release your hands. Shoulders relax. Forehead to your mat. Bring your hands next to you. Flop yourself onto one side. Swing your legs out in front of you. And you're going to lift your arms straight up. Relax your shoulders. So right now we are in Dandasana staff pose. You may know that in a moment we're going forward, right? As we come forward, we're transitioning to Paschimottanasana. But we don't just wind up there, right? This isn't I dream of Jeannie, I blink my eyes and I'm somewhere else. But something happens along the way. So let's notice. You inhale, you lift yourself up like you're a Barbie doll, pulling the body away from the legs, right? You lift up as high as you can. As you exhale, you start to come forward. Where do you notice it? Forward. When does your lower back start to say, I feel this? What about your upper back? What about the back of your knees, your hamstrings, your ankles maybe? Can you hold on to your feet? Big sip of breath, you lift your chest up. And as you exhale, bend your elbows, bring yourself even a little further forward and stay here. Nice breath in, lift up. As you exhale, release your hands, sit up nice and tall. Arms are still stretched out. We're going to start to lower ourselves down, but not all the way. Notice how you get there. Nice breath in. As you exhale, you start lowering yourself down. You have to relax your shoulders a little. Once you come about halfway down and stop, what's preventing you from falling? Big breath in. Exhale, lean forward, lean forward, lean forward. Reach your fingers beyond your toes. Another big breath in. Exhale, come back, come back, come back, come back, maybe a little bit more. Big breath in. Exhale, come forward, come forward, come forward, come forward. Stay here. And then release your hands, slide them up your legs. Pick up this left leg, bring it to the outside of your right leg. Wrap your right hand around your leg. Sit yourself up as tall as you can. We're coming into a deep twist. You're not going to wind up in a twist. You're going to get there. It's a process. So let's notice that left hand comes behind you. Your thumb is near your tailbone. You use your arm to straighten your spine. You stay here and say, wow, I can't believe how straight my spine is. Then you take another breath in. You start to turn your belly button as you exhale. Then your ribs, you're turning your spine. Your chest turns. Now my head and neck start to turn. I look over that left shoulder and I stay here. As do you. Another nice breath in, lift up a little taller. Your exhale twists you a little deeper. Inhale, come back to center. And as you exhale, both of your hands come to the outside of that right thigh. Bend your elbows, give yourself a nice little counter twist. And then lift yourself up. Uncross your legs, slide that left leg out, right leg picks up and over. Left arm hugs that knee in. As soon as you start to hug that knee in, look what happens. You straighten that spine. Then that right hand comes behind you. Voila, it's like a steel rod. Your spine's so straight. You take that big breath in, lift up. And as you exhale, turn your belly, turn your ribs, turn your chest, look over that right shoulder. Can you twist even deeper? Take a big breath in, come forward. And as you exhale, counter twist. Lift yourself up. And then that right foot comes down, that left knee bends. We're going to stay here with your knees bent. You're going to lift up your right leg, lift up your left leg, toes point to your face, arms come out, Ardha Navasana, half boat pose. We're going to stay in our half boat pose for a few breaths. We're going to add a little bit of movement. In a moment, your toes are going to touch the floor. What happens along the way? Slowly notice lower, 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 tap, lift, 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 lift. Do you feel it in your quads? Do you feel it in your belly? Do you have to relax your shoulders? What's happening? Slowly lower, 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 tap, lift, 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 hold, toes to your face, hands together. Big breath in. Notice the twist as you turn to the right. Inhale, center. Exhale, left. Inhale, center. Exhale, right. Inhale, center. Exhale, left. Inhale, center. As you exhale, hold on to your thighs. Bring yourself a little closer together. We're coming to full boat pose. How do you get there? What happens? You start to straighten that right leg. Do you feel it in the back of your hamstring? Lift that left leg. What's going on in the back of your left leg? Can you release one arm? Can you release the other? Can you stay here for 2 breaths? Bend your knees, feet to the floor, arms stay straight out. We're transitioning ourselves down to the mat. You don't go from sitting to lying down miraculously. Something happens along the way. Let's figure it out. Big breath in. As you exhale, you come down a little bit. You notice, are my toes on the mat? Are they lifting up? I need to put those toes down. I'm coming down a little bit more. Do you feel your legs working? Do you feel your belly working? Relax your shoulders. Come down a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then once your back and shoulders reach the floor, what kind of sense of letting go do you get? Hug your right knee in, hug your left knee in, wrap your arms around your legs, give yourself a nice big squeeze, gently rock yourself from side to side. So we started seated, we haven't been on our back yet. What's the difference? How does it feel to massage that spine? Open your knees, hold on to the outer edges of your feet. We're coming to happy baby. So you pause for a moment, you make sure everything feels okay in your hip joints. If it does, you open one leg out to the side, you open the other leg out to the side, and then once again, you rock yourself gently from side to side. Bend your knees are coming toward your armpits. You're lifting your butt up a little bit. And as you lift that butt up a little bit, you're imagining that your tailbone is stretching down toward the mat. And then your feet come together. You drop your feet down to the mat and you let your knees flop open like butterfly wings, big stretch through your hip flexors. If this feels dangerously uncomfortable, lift your knees up a little bit. This might be too much of a strain in those hip flexors. So lift your knees up and stay here. And then you use your exhale to settle into it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And maybe you even place your hands on your thighs, gently guide them down. Release your hands to your sides. Slowly bring those knees back together. Feet are on the floor. Hips start to lift. Lower back lifts, middle back lifts, upper back lifts, and we stay here. Can you walk your heels back a little bit more, almost like so that your fingertips can touch your heels? Pressing into those feet, lift your hips even a little higher. And we're going to stay here in our Setu Bandhasana for a few more breaths. On your next exhale, can you lift your hips a little higher? Where do you feel yourself stretching? Do you feel it through your hip flexors? Do you feel your glutes engaged? Do you feel those long, strong muscles of your thighs stretching forward? Where do you feel it? What do you feel? And then in a moment, we're going to be back down on the floor. How's it going to happen? You're going to tuck your chin. You're going to lower your upper back, your middle back, your lower back, your hips. And then once again, that right knee comes in, that left knee comes in. You wrap your arms around your legs. You're going to curl yourself into a little ball. Take a big breath in. And as you exhale, lift your head and shoulders like you're trying to bring your forehead to your knees. This is like a big, deep forward bend. Right, Setu Bandhasana, bridge pose is like a back bend. So now we're in a little bit of a forward bend or a big forward bend. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Release your head and shoulders. Bring your arms out to the side. Let both of your legs come all the way down to the right. Your head turns to the left. Inhale, center. And as you exhale, those knees come down to the left, your head turns to the right. Inhale, center. And as you exhale, your feet come down to the floor. You stretch your right leg all the way out. You stretch your left leg all the way out. You bring your arms to your side, turning your palms upward. You're coming into Shavasana. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the practice, when you do a Bikram yoga class, I don't know if they still exist. I think he was arrested, that Bikram guy. He was another sexual predator, but that's another story. But when you go to a Bikram yoga class, Shavasana is the end of the class and the teacher leaves. And you decide, am I staying there for 30 seconds? Some of the type A people can't last more than 15 to 30 seconds. Or am I really going to give this to myself as an opportunity to completely let go, to completely incorporate some of the benefit of what I did, the benefit of noticing transitions, the benefit of recognizing that spring is a time of transition, the benefit of perhaps letting myself ponder what kind of transitions, what kind of changes do I want to go through during this springtime. So please stay in Shavasana as long as you feel is necessary. And I am happy to continue our exploration of our spring of renewal and rebirth.